I will say hello to all of you. And first of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me to do this presentation. I really wish I could have attended the conference, but it was just not possible. And as presented, my name is Malin, and I work as head of education in Jamtli in Östersund in Sweden. And I have been asked to tell you about how we have worked with conflicts and refugee issues through role play at our open air museum. Maybe some of you have visited us. Jamtli is a regional museum situated in Östersund in the region of Jämtland, and it's right in the middle of Sweden. It's about 6 hours drive north of Stockholm. And it's actually three museums combined. It's an historical museum, it's an art museum, and it's an open air museum. And we have a staff of about 100 people and about 200,000 visitors per year. So what I will tell you about is a role play for 9th graders, that means 16-year-olds, that we have offered every year between 2004 and 2019. And as you can understand, it was the pandemic that stopped us from doing this after 2019. This picture is from Afghanistan, just to illustrate what the program is about. The program is a role play at the Open Air Museum where the pupils get to follow the identity of a refugee, and in interaction with actors, they experience an escape to Sweden. And yes, we are a museum, but this is not a historic role play. It takes place at present time. We call the program On the Run, which is directly translated from Swedish. I don't know if the title is very good in English, but On the Run is it. It is. And the idea of this program has been to increase knowledge about refugee issues and to prevent from xenophobic expressions and attitudes among pupils. And this program focuses on experiencing physically instead of through a classroom lecture. So shortly, I would say the purpose can be described as giving young people tools to discuss and talk about refugee issues. And we do this by letting them experiencing the situation of refugees, but also by clarifying the asylum process in Sweden. This program is 4 hours long, and it has a 1 hour introduction to start with, and then 2 hours of role play, and then finally 1 hour of a reflection session. So it's a 4 hour program. And I will give you a quick run through. It's a short time to tell you about this, but a quick run through of the role play. And I will use some pictures that was taken, most of them at the beginning when during the first years of this program. We start out the role play program with an introduction, which you can see to the left. And in the introduction, the group is given some background information about asylum rights and about European cooperation on refugee situations. We also explain the role play and what is expected of them in the role play. After that, they receive their identities and they receive them on cards that they get some time to read through and to memorize, as you can see on this picture here. These identities have been updated every year to be current to the global situation at the time. The identities have been created from actual stories, from interviews with asylum seekers, but also stories from, for example, the Red Cross or other organizations. Of course, all these identities are anonymous. After that, the role play starts, and they are picked up in groups by smugglers and human traffickers. Some of them are transported in a minivan, as you could see on the last picture, and some of them in a covered tractor wagon where they hide, and some of them will hide in a container. This first part of the escape is dramatic and fast. They have to run, they have to hide, and the pulse is high during this half of the role play. They encounter smugglers, they encounter policemen, they encounter guards at the border, which is performed by the actors. Then, during the second part of the role play, it is more calm, it is slow, and it's actually a bit boring if you ask the pupils, but it's supposed to be because it's consisting of the waiting process of the asylum process. Here they will have their fingerprints taken, they will get a place to stay, a bed, and most importantly, they will meet someone from the migration office and they get to tell their story and to explain why they need asylum. Here they will also get help from an interpreter, as all the Swedish people in this part of the role play will speak gibberish, like a nonsense language, to increase the feeling of not understanding what is said. After that, the role play ends. All of this is during 2 hours. And at the end, they will get their asylum notice. Some of them will get permission to stay in Sweden, but most of them don't. And some of them are sent back to another European country due to the Dublin regulation to seek for asylum in that first country that they have visited. And here starts the big discussions among the pupils, asking themselves, why did you get asylum? Why didn't I get asylum? So here starts the discussion. And this will continue in the reflection session. Here we can clarify what has happened during the role play. We can use also Mentimeter, which we use as a method to follow up and focus on different questions and some summarizing opinions, which also makes all the pupils interactive. We have found this a very good method to do these reflection sessions. So this was a very brief description of the actual role play. I would say that this program is filled with facts about the refugee situation, facts about Swedish legislation on refugees, and also on European cooperation. But it's given to the pupils through feelings and emotions in this role play. It's mixed in the role play. And the role play will make the pupils feel many things. They will feel, for example, scared. They will feel angry. They can feel upset. They can feel relieved, perhaps thankful, and confused, hungry, tired, all sorts of feelings. All these types of feelings, and our experience is that this makes them ready to discuss and reflect on what they have experienced. They come back filled with all these emotions. And we have seen how following somebody's identity brings out empathy and interest in how things work and how actually this process with taking refugees into our country works. So we have offered this program for 16 years. We have done this every fall in October, and we hire 6 to 7 actors to take part in this role play. It's normally a very hectic time. We bring in school classes from the whole county. Some of the school classes travel for 2 hours to come to the museum because it's quite long distances. We've received about 40 groups each year, and we receive 2 groups every day. It's quite tough for the pupils and for the teachers, for us, and also for the actors, but we have felt this is so fulfilling and it feels really, really important. We still meet grown-ups now who still remembers this experience, even if it was a long time ago that they took part in it. So we were starting up and planning for this program even this fall. But then the situation in Ukraine turned up in February. And this gave us reason to do something new. Because 16 years with the same program is quite a long time, even though it's asked for. So we felt ready to do something new. And this new program we have just started this week. So I will just give you a very short glimpse on what we're doing. We are right in the middle of it. We started up this Monday with school classes, and that was the reason why I couldn't come and join you at the conference, which I would have liked to. I have very few photographs so far, and the program hasn't been evaluated yet. But I will give you a short glimpse on what we are doing. I hope it's the right slide now. Now I can see it again, so I know what you can see. This program we call preparedness. And it has sort of it's the same concept as the other program. It's for the same age group, and it is a role play followed by a reflection session. The purpose of this program is to give a historic perspective on the Ukrainian war, and here we do a historic role play instead of a present day role play to give a perspective on the war that goes on today. This covers the period 1939 to 1945 in Sweden. During this time in Sweden is often called preparedness time or standby time. We were not part of the war, but we had to be prepared of war. So this is the time that we use as a tool for this program. And these pictures, the last picture, I think I have to go back again to the picture before. I'm not sure about what you see. This is what I say. I hope you see it. This picture shows two folders that has been delivered to households. One of them in 1943, and translated it means if war comes. And the other one is delivered today. Crisis or war comes is the translation of that one. And we feel that the situation in Sweden now, with the events in Ukraine and how it affects the rest of the world, it can be mirrored to the time of preparedness in Sweden during the Second World War. So in this case, we can use the past, which is only 80 years ago, as a tool to get a historic background and perspective on the security situation today in Sweden and in Europe. One interesting situation during the Second World War here in Sweden is the Norwegian refugees escaping across the border from Norway to Sweden. So parts of the role play is about that. It gives perspective on refugees today and how the asylum rights work, because there were no asylum rights back then. So the right picture here shows is from the border between Sweden and Norway. Another interesting thing is the increase of military service that involved all men during the preparedness time in Sweden that you can see in the left picture. And this gives us reason to talk about how military service is now increased again. And this will affect these young people that we meet, both boys and girls this time, in just a couple of years. They are 16 now, and they will soon be 18. So here are just a few pictures of the role play that we are doing now. They are taking part in some different scenes and settings. For example, they are becoming soldiers, getting prepared for their duty. And here they will also be meeting women doing civil work. And these pictures were taken Monday this week, so they are really newly taken. And we have school classes coming every day now. After these scenes and settings that they take part in, there will be issues discussed about today. So from these historical situations, we discuss refugees and asylum rights. We talk about military service today. We talk about shelter. The school class I had today, I asked them how many of them knew where their nearest shelter is. And about half of the group knew, half of them didn't. So it seemed like they will be going home and finding out where their nearest shelter is. We can discuss rationing. We can discuss the Cold War. We discuss Swedish neutrality. And not the least, we will discuss Swedish NATO application. So these are some of the reflection areas that we discuss about nowadays with the perspective of the historical situation in preparedness time. We do this now for 30 classes, and we started this week, and we will continue doing this next week as well. So we have 3 classes each day coming to us. And then we will evaluate this, and we will see what we will end up doing next fall. So far, we've had very interesting reflections with the students, and we feel that like this is a up-to-date program that they can take good use of in both historic parts of the school, but also in other areas. So finally, this is 2 examples of role play work that we have done around issues like refugees and conflicts, and also an example of how we are using history as a tool for understanding the situations of today. So by that, I will say thank you.
And thank you, Malin, so much for your presentation under such, I would say, challenging circumstances. Has our audience gathered some thoughts and comments for Malin or questions to ask? Yes, well, okay, please.
Thank you, Malin. I hope you can hear me. I don't know if you can see me. It was really interesting, and I would say you have very challenging programs going on there. I was thinking on the first example, sure you have had also pupils visiting who also have a refugee background themselves. Have you gathered also feedback from them, how they relate to that kind of problem?
Yes, absolutely. After 2015, all the school classes had quite big amounts of pupils with refugee backgrounds. We handled that what we did was that we had very, very close contact with the teachers and made it clear for them that this program is, first of all, to give Swedish pupils an understanding. But so what they would do is to tell the refugee students about the program, what can be expected, and they would get to choose whether they would like to join or not. I think about half of them decided to stay in the classroom, and some of them decided to come. I think for some of them it was good not to attend, because we don't want to bring back emotions and experiences that is not good for them to go through again. But when they have joined the class, the discussions afterwards have been very, very interesting, because they have been able to confirm or deny, and they have been talking about their own experiences. And actually, we have realized that in some school classes, they don't know about their background. They haven't talked about it. So in some way, these participants have gotten a voice in the class after joining the program and talking about their own background.
Sweden has been very open to refugees. But we have heard that you have had now problems with gangs and so on, and the new government now is not so open anymore. Does it make some problems for the museum and for museum and politicians?
During the later years that we did this program, we realized that it became more and more sensitive politically. We even got some parents calling us, not many, but a few, and they did not agree with us that we should do this program. And we have never taken any stand politically, and we have never in this program talked about how many refugees should there be, should we invite to Sweden. So it's more a question of human rights and how the system works. But we did notice towards the end that it was a little more sensitive to do a program like this. Yes, not a problem, but we got some comments about it.
I have noticed also that the parallels or making meaning of the ongoing war with the help of the Second World War is a rather wide phenomenon. We can see it in Estonian-speaking social media, for example, or recently I read an article on Ukrainian materials that demonstrates the same, that local people also make sense of their own war experiences by through their own recollections of Second World War experiences. So my question would be, what inspired you to do this second program? I understand this is a fresh experience, but have something in society that triggered you or inspired you to put it in force?
Well, the reason that changed and started to do this program is definitely what happened in Ukraine and how it changed very many aspects of everyday life now. So we felt that was a way to meet up with worries and questions that young people have now about what is happening. Are we turning towards a new world war, or what is happening? So we've wanted to do this to be updated, I would say, not meaning that the refugee issues that we have discussed before isn't important anymore. Of course they are, but for the moment we felt that this is what's on the news all the time now. This is what probably the young people talk about. So we wanted to do this as a more updated program. And then we wanted to do a historic background to it, and we felt right away that the preparedness time was the right time to use as a historic perspective.
Yeah. So thank you again, Malin, for your presentation and your answers.